Did anybody else get that Saharan rain? It just completely covered everything. This is the dirtiest vehicle because it's not moved anywhere and it's been covered in that sandy rain, and it's just sat here. Whereas the other vehicles have driven through fresher rain and it's cleared it off. But yeah, absolutely filthy. Well, let's do a quick garage update before we have a look inside the van. Not much has changed since I last showed you, but the insulation for the ceiling, so that's just some Celotex that is going to go up in the ceiling in between the joist there, and then on this side we've got some 12.5mm plasterboard that will go on top of those, well, you know, underneath those joists, attached to that, and then eventually, just a few little bits I need to do. I just need to fill that gap in there with some of this leftover insulated plasterboard that you can see there. And also, I need to, you can't see it at the minute because the garage door's up, but I also need to do just above the garage door. But yeah, what do you think to the walls? They're not looking too bad, are they? Obviously it needs skimming, which I'll get a plasterer to complete that. But we'll leave these like exposed brick pillars because I think that'll look quite good. But then yeah, we'll get the plasterer to skim all over this and the ceiling. Then it needs painting, then I can put the awesome floor in. But everything seems to take so long, and I'm just really keen to get cracking on with the van. It's just annoying me that it's sat there, not really doing anything and not even getting any progress on it. So although this is not finished and the plan was to finish this first and then start on the van, I just want to get cracking on with at least some jobs. You know, the windows are booked in, that's happening next week, but we can actually start on the insulation now, which is quite exciting. Now, anyone that's done anything to do with van conversions, or at least watched any videos to do with van conversions, will 100% know that it's an absolute minefield when it comes to insulation. There's sound deadening involved, there's vapor barriers, there's insulation, there's all sorts. So although I watched millions of videos about it, I got in touch with Dodo Mat and they said, fear not, Sean, we shall send you tons of stuff and you will have the ultimate insulated van. So we have got absolutely tons of stuff here that we need to open up and have a look at and see what it all does. I actually couldn't help but make a throne out of all the stuff from Dodo Mat. But yeah, that is quite a cool place to sit. Maybe we should just leave it like that. I can drive around the king or queen of Dodo Land. Right, well, first up is this box. The heaviest boxes, actually. Oh, in fact, let me just grab a knife. Yeah, first box is this one. So let's open this. Got to be careful not to cut anything that's inside. I need a sharper knife. Well, I need to change the blade anyway. Ooh, what goodies are in here? Ah, right, yeah. So this is the sound deadening. That's what it is. These are called Dodo Mats. What it is it's like a sort of just a square, a rectangle of silver with like a bitumen thing on the back. So it's self-adhesive. And the idea is your panels, as you can well hear, rattle like mad because they're only thin. And the idea is this is a dampener for that. So you stick them on. With the vast majority of the panels, you only actually have to have about half of it covered because that's enough just to stop the resonance. Any of you that did physics at school will remember the marching thing remember when troops marching had to break their step when they went over a suspension bridge because the resonance constantly shakes? Well, you get that with the side panels on a van. You get it on the roof, you get it on the floor, you get it all over. So the idea is that this is a dampener and it just absorbs some of that resonance and it should stop it being quite so loud. But like I say, you only have to do about half of each of the panels, apart from the wheel arches. That it's recommended that you fully cover the wheel arches just because you get a lot more road noise through them. Next up, once you've applied the deaden around, is the super liner. Now what the super liner does, if I can get some out, Now what the super liner does, this goes on after you've done the soundproofing, the sound deadening, and what this is like a foam with, again, self-adhesive, but it's got a foam front to it, and you put that over all the metalwork, and what that does is that stops the warm air touching the cold metalwork and creating condensation in the van. So yeah, the idea behind that is just to stop any moisture building up inside the void that you have for your insulation. It just obviously inside when you're breathing, you're going to expel moisture in your body, and that then touches the cold metal sides and turns into condensation. This is going to stop that from happening. Now on the flip side to that, in the middle of the summer, that will also stop with all the heat from the sun coming. This is quite a dark van, it was a very dark van as you can well tell. It'll stop the heat from the sun turning the sides into radiators essentially. Again, it just stops that transfer of temperature through the metalwork of the van. Now once you've applied that super liner, next up is the actual insulation itself. Now this is probably the bit that most people will be familiar with because you have insulation in your house. Most people do. And so let's have a look. This comes in a big roll, and this is called the Dodo Thermo Fleece. What this is a lovely thick insulation, and it's made from recycled plastic bottles as well. And what you do once you've put your sound deadening on, like the foam that we spoke about, you then install this on top, and that's what reduces the transfer of heat out of the van. So it keeps it nice and warm in the winter, and likewise it keeps it nice and cool in the summer as well. That's just like your normal insulation that you have at home, and you pack that in all these little voids here, on here as well. Obviously anywhere that's going to be chopped out for a window, I will not be putting it on there. But yeah, that along with the foam lining will create a lovely warm barrier to stop any warm air escaping the van. And then last but certainly not least is the vapor barrier. So this is the Dodo Vapor Plus. There's all sorts of stuff. And this one, you can see, is like what you see in the International Space Station. Now this is a product that some people use and some people don't. There's real mixed sort of views on whether this is something that you really need or not. And a lot of it depends on how much you use the van. If you only use it very, very rarely, it's just the odd trip away, you probably don't need it because the van will naturally breathe anyway. But if you do a lot of cooking or you use the vehicle a hell of a lot, you can get quite a lot of moisture build-up inside, and the last thing you want is for all that insulation that you've put on the side of the van to absorb all that moisture. So this creates a separation between that insulation and the inside of the van. This has a very thin layer of closed foam insulation, so it's like an extremely narrow version of this stuff, but with a foil barrier just to stop any moisture getting through. Again, it's self-adhesive, so you just apply that and cover every bit where you put some insulation. Now I'm really keen to just get some of this sound deadening on for a couple of reasons. One, this van resonates like mad because there's no bulkhead. When you travel along, it is just a right racket. And also secondly, this is a really therapeutic job to do. We did this, we completely soundproofed the Land Rover Defender when we had that, and it made a massive difference, and it's such an enjoyable job. You don't need many tools. All you need is a roller, so you can flatten it down nicely, a pair of scissors and a knife, and maybe something just to score it on. But yeah, most of the time I think you can just cut it with a pair of scissors. That's what we did last time anyway. So let's start with this panel up at the front here. So what we do is we offer this up, and I know already that fits in there quite nicely. There we go. Yeah, that fits in fine. And like I said before, you only need to do between 30 and 50% of each panel. So I'm not going to completely cover that, just because all it does is just create excess weight in the van. And it's so sticky. Obviously the warmer the day you do this on, the better really but it's not too bad a day actually today, which is quite rare here in the UK. And I say this is such a satisfying job. Where's my roller? In fact, can anyone tell me, is that essentially what this is from the factory? These panels on here, I take it there to try and deaden the sound a bit. Not that they really do much. I take it that's what that's for. And again, how's that fit? Oh, nice. So satisfying when it fits perfectly. There's no fear of this coming off. But having said that, if you realise you put it in the wrong place, you can peel it off easily enough. I'm not going to do it because I'm quite satisfied with where that is. Right, I'm going to crack on with the rest of the van. Now when you're doing these panels, make sure you have a good look at how far up they go, because I mean that goes right up the top there. It actually pops out the top. So yeah, make sure you, like I say, you only need to do half the panel, but make sure you are doing half the panel, not just half what you can see. But yes, like I say, it's a really therapeutic job. And also when you cut these bits, make sure you keep your offcuts because they come in handy in other places. You're going to need quite a bit around the wheel arches, so make sure you keep your offcuts. Careful when you're doing it. I've just cut myself on the right on the edge of one of those sheets, so just be careful when you do that. Well, it's starting to look a bit like a disco ball in here. We've got silver everywhere. Like I said, a few panels that I've not put any on, but it's such a therapeutic job. So far I've done most of the roof. I've missed this out because we're probably going to have a skylight there. I've not touched this side yet at all, so I've not done any of the top bit. Most of this will be windows, but obviously the bottom panels along there they'll require some sound deadening in there. But I'm obviously not going to get all the insulation done today, but I wanted to show you how the super liner is fitted, and this depends massively on where you're fitting it. Now there's different sections on the van. Bits like this, where the ribs for the framework around here are pretty close to the actual outer skin of the van. I'm going to cover completely over the top of that. In different parts, where like this down below, you've got a good sort of 2 or 3 inches gap between this rib and the skin of the actual van. I'm going to put this liner, I'm going to chop it into pieces, I'm going to put it all behind with some of that sound deadening, and just keep the barrier further back, and then the insulation will be behind that. So it just depends on where really that you're actually putting it. So for example here I've cut it to size, and then it's just a case of taking the backing off. Really sticky stuff. Just take the top bit off. It's really sticky. Maybe just put one bit in place. Yeah, that's better. And then pull back on the top bit. Make sure you cut the piece a little bit bigger than the actual space that you need, because with those ribbed bits, that's obviously going to make the total distance slightly bigger than if you just measured it. Does that make sense? See, this is going to have to be in a couple of sections because I've got a bit of a gap at the bottom here, but that's okay. This will act as well as a bit of a sound deadener as well. You can already hear the difference. Well, yeah, there you have it. And then I'm going to cut another bit along the bottom there and put that in, and then the insulation will then sit on top of that. But We've got a bit of a way to go before we do that, unfortunately. But I just wanted to show you how that is fitted. But there's also another job you need to do as well, if you own a crafter anyway. Now if you can see down at the bottom here, can you see all these white clips? Now they are what hold on the black trim on the outside. And in the past they used to let water in. I don't think they're quite as bad as they used to be now. They've got washers there. But if water does get in, there's nowhere to go because Volkswagen have blocked up the channels. So what you need to do, you can see the expanding foam down there. Basically there are some holes underneath there, but they've been filled in, and you just need a soldering iron, a hot soldering iron, just to go through those holes and open those holes up. Now that was actually advised to us by Celtic Motorhomes. They convert these all the time and they sent us a message. They've also uploaded a video of how to do that, so I'll link that in the description below for anyone that is converting a crafter. Make sure you do that. Basically, if water does get in, there's nowhere for it to go if you don't do that. It just saves any headaches at a later date. But that video shows you all how to do that, so yeah, make sure you check that out in the description below. Right, I'm going to leave it there for today's video. I've got loads of this to do, got to do all this side, so you'll see that in the next video. Also in the next video, the windows are going in, so make sure you stay tuned for that, because that is going to completely transform this van. It's also going to make it a lot easier to film in because it's very, very dark. A huge thank you to Dodo Mat for sending that out to us, but there's going to be plenty more videos where we'll show you all the insulation and the vapor barrier, so stay tuned for that. Please like and subscribe, and we shall see you in the next video. Thanks.